Hello, everyone. My name is Yonchev, and I am leading the team at Team Topologies Limited. And today I'm going to talk about mapping teams to value streams. And I'm going to focus the majority of this talk to technology context, so looking at technology teams and how you map them to value streams. But you can perfectly well apply the same logic to business teams or any other kind of combination of teams. As you may or may not know, Team Topologies is the leading research-based approach to accelerating flow or achieving fast flow with business and technology teams. So I'll be using this approach throughout the presentation to guide you on how we achieve this using Team Topologies. And without further ado, let's answer the biggest question. How do you map a team to a value stream? Well, you need a value stream, and then you need a team, and you map them, and you are done. Well, in the words of my oldest son, are we there yet? Well, probably not, because it's rarely that easy, unless you're a very small company, a very small organization, and you only have one team and very, very limited value stream for one single product that you're building. You're probably not gonna be that lucky. So how exactly does it work when you are in an enterprise environment and when you are looking at a very complex organization with a lot of teams, with a lot of value streams, with a lot of different products? And you might have already been on the journey of project to product, starting to move to product teams, starting to define products. And now we're starting to talk about value streams like, well, what the heck? Where should we go? So let's unpack this a little bit. So first things first, you may have already been working with teams for a very long time. We've been practicing agile software development for ages now, for several decades. And by now there are a lot of organizations that are working with teams, and we quite often talk about component teams or feature teams and delivery teams. And those are not the type of teams we want to talk about. There are plenty of issues, and I'm not going to dive into the issues associated with component teams, feature teams, and delivery teams. Value stream teams, or teams aligned to value stream, or as we call them in Team Topologies, stream-aligned teams, they're different, and in many, many different ways. And I'm quickly going to describe how they're different. What is the difference? What are the different characteristics that they have, which do not necessarily apply that well to component teams, feature teams, or delivery teams. So first things first, if you do use currently component teams, feature teams, delivery teams, they may not necessarily do a good job mapping towards value streams. They may not necessarily do a good job accelerating value or the flow of value within this value stream. And hopefully by the end of the presentation, it will be clear how. If not, hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to talk about that. So let's unpack this. Obviously, the equation has two different parts, the value stream and the team. Let's start with the team. So how does a team assigned to a value stream feels different? This diagram comes from Team Topologies. And one of the first things that you would identify when you look at the team that is aligned to a value stream is the end-to-end capability. If you work with component teams or feature teams or delivery teams, quite often what you would see, especially building big complex architectures, is that there's handover. There's one team building something, handing it over to another team. That handover might be around functional boundaries. So you have the developers handing over to QA, or it could be between components, one component to another. There is a handover, and that naturally means it does not provide the prerequisites for a fast flow of value, because you don't have an alignment across the value stream. When you do see the alignment to the value stream, you would see that there is a single team with an end-to-end responsibility, with an end-to-end capability within the team to be able to deliver everything that is happening within this value stream, from idea all the way to the end, to production, to where the customer is. That team naturally requires to have a business domain expertise because they need to understand the business domain behind the value stream. And that business domain, if you go deep enough, it may not necessarily be that distinctive. It may become very quickly a kind of technical domain, but we'll get there in a few minutes. They definitely need to master the context in which they're working. They are a product team, even though they're aligned to value stream. They're a product team. They're building products. They may not necessarily be a product team with only one product. As we will talk in a minute, value streams are not necessarily the same thing as products, and the relationship is not necessarily one-to-one. The Dunbar's numbers are still applying, meaning that we are looking for ideally a single-digit number of people within this team. And what you would also see in stream-aligned teams, that there is this drive for autonomy. These teams are typically autonomous. They typically take all the decisions and are empowered to take all the decisions to deliver particular outcomes. And that's also where the funding comes in. Stream-aligned teams are funded for outcomes. They're not funded for projects. They're not funded for components or particular deliverables. So that is how you can very quickly recognize if a team is aligned to a value stream or if it is something else. Now, in reality, you may have situations where some of these characteristics are less clear or not necessarily in place, especially if you're transitioning towards this idea. But that is something you should be aspiring to get to. Now, a lot of you, even though I'm not hearing anyone, are probably jumping off their chairs now and saying, well, what if the complexity is too big, like single-digit team and then end-to-end responsibility? There are only so many things you can build with such a small team. And this is where Team Topologies as an approach comes in again. So first thing could be that, well, first you need to understand the cognitive load. You need to understand where the complexity is coming from. It can be coming from areas which are linked to lack of knowledge, lack of sufficient capability. So introducing an enabling team in order to raise the capability to reduce the complexity through enabling the stream-aligned team is one way to reduce complexity. Of course, you cannot reduce all kind of complexity with that. You may have situations where the complexity is inherent to the technology stack that you're using, and the way to handle it is, the way to tackle it is by taking away that part of that complexity, isolating it and putting it on a platform, which then can be made available as a service. So that reduces the complexity on the stream-aligned team by limiting their knowledge only to how the service should be consumed. They do not necessarily need to understand all of the inner workings. Another way that the Team Topologies approach recommends is, if you do have something that is very complex in the architecture, you can also take this away and give it to another dedicated team, a complicated subsystem team, which would try to develop a fit-for-purpose solution that can be consumed by this team that is aligned to the value stream. And later on, once that solution is actually available as a capability, naturally it will flow into the platform as an additional service that any other team can consume. And the complicated subsystem team would continue to enhance it with the demands of any other team that would come on board and start using it. So much for the teams. Are we there yet? And some of you will say, well, show me the value stream. I'm going to map the team to it. Not so fast. Unfortunately, the biggest complexity is not in defining the teams. It's not in building those stream-aligned teams with end-to-end responsibility. It is really lying with the value streams. And the reason why I say this is because we can start from a very simple definition of what a value stream is, and then see how complex it's going to get once we get into the weeds of how this works in practice. So if you Google or if you search a little bit, value stream started or probably did not start, but became very popular with the lean movement in manufacturing. And I started my career in manufacturing. I did a fair amount of lean and Lean Six Sigma, and value streams was everything back in the days. So this is how a lot of manufacturing organizations managed to become very competitive leaders in their environment. So the way value stream was defined back then, and still is used as a definition, is it is the sequence of steps and activities that are required to deliver on a customer demand. So a value stream always starts with the demand or always starts with a customer, which could be a demand, and ends with a customer. And it describes the flow through which something needs to go through in order to reach the final customer as the way to satisfy the demand of that final customer. It's a very simple explanation. Unfortunately, it's becoming a little bit more complex once you try to apply it. So let's think a little bit about Mars. And I'm not speaking about that Mars, I'm speaking about Mars Corporation. So if you know Mars Corporation, I really love these guys. They are a company that builds a lot of different products. They build candy bars. You probably know them for their Mars, Snickers, Twix candy bars. But they also develop produce food for your pets. So they have a line that is producing food for cats, Whiskas, and you have the Pedigree brand and probably a few others that are producing food for dogs. So if you think about what it takes to produce one of these products, so let's take the candy bars. All of the candy bars are kind of the same because they are using the same, more or less the same ingredients. If you look at the production process, they are going through the same work centers, to the same machines. On those machines, you have the same people working. It's not like the factory today produce Mars and they call different people. It's the same people that produce both Mars and Snickers. What they do is simply change over some of the activities they perform and some of the settings of the machines. But essentially, a Snickers and a Mars bar is going to go through the same sequence of steps, the same sequence of activities, the same sequence of hands and people and machines. And you can say that the value stream behind these two products, or even more, if you look at all of the candy bars, is the same. However, it's a very different value stream if you look at the steps and activities that the dog food would pass through. It would require completely different manipulations by different people on different machines. So that's another value stream. So starting from the back in the days, how value streams were born as a concept and an idea, looking at manufacturing, hopefully this starts a little bit to create a clarity of what's a value stream and how it relates to products. So clearly, one value stream can be producing multiple products. Those products are still very much similar. So the team, the people that are building those products can build mastery around that. They can build deeper understanding of that business domain. They probably don't understand anything about dog food, and that's perfectly fine, because it will be introducing a massive complexity for them if they also need to know how dog food is being produced. So some of you are probably starting to think by now, okay, it feels like value stream is like the line of business or the business units. Is that correct? Or if I'm understanding this, how many value streams should I have? It feels like it's slowly starting to explode. And if you've already been on the journey from project to product, or moving to a product operating model, you probably starting to be even more confused. You probably just finished defining product teams, and now you need to figure out how this value stream concept is going to mess things up. And if you actually read the books of Marty Kagan from Silicon Valley Product Group, and especially the last one, the Transformed book, you probably come to the realization that a product team is not necessarily something, and it's not necessarily a team that is focused on one single product. That's an ideal scenario, but in a big enterprise, you would never be able to have as many teams, as many products you would define, especially if you look at all of the different ingredients which you need in order to build the technology that drives some of the big enterprises that we run. You won't find enough developers. You won't find enough engineers out there to staff those teams. And this is where the value stream comes in. The stream-aligned teams are very much acting as product teams. They are product teams. They have everything a product team has. But they have one more thing, which is they're aligning to the value stream, and they're trying to build specialization in that domain and all of the products that come out of this value stream. Now, it can still become complicated, and this is where the industry is moving to, the composable applications, looking at how can we borrow some inspiration from, again, manufacturing and what was really working well, and reduce the waste in the system, reduce the number of teams that have to develop all of the same components over and over again. If you think of applications, every application needs some kind of authentication and probably a login screen. Why do you need to develop this over and over again? Why each team need to do this? And you end up with multiple different versions of the same screen, depending on which application you hit today. More and more organizations are moving to a composable application as an idea, which allows you to pick up reusable components that have already been developed, that have already been tested and certified. They're compliant from a security and every other single compliance perspective, and they're available to consume from a platform. So going back to what I was saying about reducing complexity, if you remove some of the elements of what the team needs to build, and make them consumable, make them available as a service, naturally, that would relieve the team from the things that they need to think about, the architecture that they need to develop. And as you move towards this fabula or this place, which some organizations are closer to than others, you can then get to the point where a team can just select the components that they need for a particular application and only focus on developing the true differentiator, the part that is very specific that does not exist today, that adds productivity, that improves quality, that increases consistency in terms of security and compliance. There are a lot of benefits associated with this. And this is, again, something that as a concept was borrowed from manufacturing. So if you think about automotive, this is how vehicles are produced nowadays. The platform for the majority of vehicles produced within a big automotive producer, they usually focus on one or just a few platforms. They may have 15, 20 different models or even brands. Some of big automotive producers have multiple brands, but the platform, which is the body on which you may put a lot of additional components to actually see different models come out, and they feel different, they look different, but essentially somewhere under the hood, they start with the same foundation, the same body, and it's only the shape that starts evolving, and the engines that are being added, they're also very much consolidated. You don't have as many engines as many combinations of vehicle models and power of the engine you have. They are essentially a component that is being developed by potentially even a different company and then consumed at the right point of the team assembling the car. So it's a similar idea that modern organizations, enterprises that are moving to composable applications are trying to achieve. Isolating all of these reusable components and elements, making them available through a platform, so that the team that is aligned to the value stream that has to ship this vehicle to the customer, they can focus only on the parts that are very unique to this particular domain, and everything else is available to be consumed on demand. So it's a similar thing that we are trying to achieve within technology, within building software. Get to the point where everything that can be isolated can be isolated. Now, of course, if the team producing the engine is not ready, there are not enough engines available to be consumed, that will block the Stream-aligned team. But as long as we have enough of these, then the Stream-aligned team can go as fast as they can. So naturally, that means, and let me go back, that means that you have a network of value streams, because you have the value stream that ships the final vehicle, but the value stream producing the tires, the value stream producing the engine, the value stream producing the different parts of the body that gives the shape of the car that we so much like, or the different ingredients that are being added inside. All of these components have their own value streams, and naturally they would have the teams behind those value streams that are focused on building this in the best possible way. So it's really becoming a little bit more complex than one value stream, one team, let's map them. We're speaking about networks of value streams, especially when we speak about bigger organizations. So it's not just the lines of business. Even if you just take one line of business and identify the value streams inside, and start with one of the value streams that you see shipping a service or a product to your customer, the moment you start diving deeper, there are more and more value streams that are emerging. And I know some of the value stream practitioners out there that are coming from the manufacturing space will say, but Val, value stream should always start and end with an external customer. But let's not go into that philosophical discussion. I'm more than happy to have it on the side. Let's just accept that for the moment, this is valid also for everything that happens further under the hood. Value streams are also multidimensional, and that's the other complicated challenge that we need to deal with. And what I mean by this is, if you look at the value stream, it is a system. It's a socio-technical system. We speak about socio-technical systems a lot, and value streams is probably the one place where this is really, really shining and super, super necessary, because the value stream is not just the sequence of technology. It's not just the processes in which we use that technology. It's not just the people that we put around the teams end to end to manage that value stream. It's how all of these things interact as a system. And this is why a lot of organizations out there very quickly figured out that it is not enough to copy the way another organization has structured teams, because that links to the architecture the teams are building, and the software delivery lifecycle processes that allows this architecture to be shipped by those teams. So it just picking up one piece, which is the team structure, or the way the teams are composed, or the teams of teams organization, is not enough. It really needs to be something appropriate for the architecture you're building, and appropriate for the processes that you are trying to use in order to ship this architecture. So if you want to really achieve different results, a fast flow of value, to outperform competition and to really out-innovate your competitors, you really need to look at all of these three ingredients. And I want to shout out here to Chris Richardson, who I believe is the first person who came up with visualizing it through that triangle. He's also one of the advocates in the Team Topologies community. That is the way you need to start thinking about value streams. in technology context. You need to think about what is the technology architecture, what is the people architecture that corresponds to that technology architecture I'm trying to build, and how these two interact with the software delivery lifecycle practices and processes that we're putting in place. Now, there are different ways to attack and to understand and model and design and manage value streams. And unfortunately, there's no one that rules them all. There's no one proven method that, you can use this and forget about everything else and everything will be fine. It does not exist. They all have something in common. They all start and end with the customer. They all link back to the customer, to the needs, the requirements, to the outcomes that the customer is looking to achieve. And I'm going to dive very quickly in a few of those that we use a lot in almost every single engagement we have with organizations and leaders that are looking to move to these product operating models. What you see here is intentionally blurred out, is the beginning, a draft version, one of the iterations of a Wardley map. And Wardley mapping is a technique or a practice or a method, if you prefer, that helps you understand value chains. And value chains are different from value streams. They are related, but the value chain is the sequence of capabilities and elements that you putting in place in order to satisfy the needs of a particular customer. So it always starts with the customer. It starts with understanding what those needs are. And then we're translating those needs into different capabilities that we need to combine and deliver as a package in order to satisfy the particular need. And each of these capabilities and elements is a candidate for a stream-aligned team, a team that is focused on a value stream to pick it up and develop it as a product of their value stream. It's not necessarily that the relationship is one-to-one. You may have quite a few elements that are packaged together and they're built by one team because they are part of one value stream. They're logically grouped, and it is possible. It's not too complex. There are certain advantages of having them assigned to one team. If you look up, and I want to shout out here to Susanne Kaiser, if you look up Susanne on YouTube, you may have also met her at some of the conferences out there. She's very prominent in this space. She's speaking a lot about how you combine Wardley mapping with Team Topologies. And that's not a coincidence. Susanne is also part of the Team Topologies community and the core team. So one way to understand value streams or to start to unpack value streams is to think about the value chain, the sequence of elements and capabilities that we need to put in place in order to deliver a particular product. Another angle is to look at the value stream from a customer journey perspective. Value stream is not a customer journey. Let's get this off the table. Value stream is different from value chain. It is also different from customer journeys. But you can use customer journeys and you can expand them with techniques like domain-driven design. For example, event storming, which is the technique you currently see here on the wall. You can use this to start with the journey of the customer and then translate it into the way the systems are being designed to fulfill this journey. Naturally, you start identifying places where different elements that you had mapped out in the value chain are coming into the picture of the architecture that you're building. And naturally, you start seeing what makes sense to be isolated and have one team assigned to it, one team that aligns to the value stream behind this particular part of the architecture. That is a technique that we not only highly recommend, we see critical for achieving fast flow and critical for adopting Team Topologies. You cannot adopt Team Topologies without identifying independent value streams that teams can align to. And domain-driven design helps in that. Value streams are quite often looked from a process perspective as well. And again, let's spell it out. Value streams are not processes. Processes are used in order to implement value streams, in order to fulfill value streams. But it's not a one-on-one relationship, and it's not like a value stream map is a process or a technique to map out a process. It's a lot more. But you can use techniques like, for example, metric-based process mapping to look at the processes from a value stream perspective and identify how value is flowing through this process. Does it flow? Does it break? What you want to see is a mapping from idea to production, and you want to clearly identify the handovers, because a handover in that flow means you do not have a streamlined team. You don't have a team that has the end-to-end responsibility for this value stream. A handover means that there is more required for this team to ship. Ideally, the steps will be very few. Ideally, it will be one step. A developer pushes code, and the code goes all the way to production. Anytime the process stops, anytime the process goes back because of rework, because something was not done right or not as per the requirements, is interrupting, it is impeding the flow of value. And that technique helps you to further tune the system that I was talking about. So if you look back at that slide with the socio-technical system, you use domain-driven design to understand the value streams from an architectural point of view. You use metric-based process mapping or value stream mapping or other flow mapping techniques in order to understand how the processes that relate to this technical architecture flow. And then you can use Wardley mapping to see how the different elements of the architecture could map to the different teams, which is also visible inside domain-driven design. And naturally, you see this as swim lanes in some of the mapping techniques. So with this, hopefully you start narrowing down to the point where it is as easy as show me the value stream, I'll map the team to it. Now, in a lot of cases, you may face further complexity. You may identify that the value stream is still too big. It is still too much for one team, or the team has to be really, really big, which is not what you want. You do not want to be working with teams that are 20, 30 people. It's been proven over and over again that that is something that does not work. This is where fracture planes, which is another technique that we use a lot inside Team Topologies, comes in as a savior. And fracture planes, if you think about rocks, you look carefully, you will see the natural fracture planes, natural cracks that you can use to divide things. So from a technology point of view, there are different categories of fracture planes you could be looking at, business domain, the regulatory compliance. So there are things that should comply with one standard and with another standard, so you can split them. The change cadence, how fast do we need to ship change in the particular area? The technology stack or the risks could also point to a way to separate the value stream into two or more. Performance installation, so the way we want something to perform, the expectations from one or another product or two versions of the same product, depending on who they serve. The user personas and journeys and team location. So these are further ways in which you can divide the value streams so that you can get to the point where you have granularity, which is good enough for a team, not too big, not too small, just about right. And that would then give you the clarity within the network of value streams, how you can map teams to them. The last thing I want to say is that this is a journey and this is an iterative process. Do not fall in the trap of many people and many organizations who are looking to first define what the end state looks like and then try to implement that. It does not work from a Team Topologies perspective. It does not work from value stream perspective. And there are a lot of other things, as we know, that do not work this way. Rather, think about it as the same way that if you ever try to make sourdough, it's one of those things that you need to keep doing over and over again, and gradually you improve. You find certain things that work and give a good result, then you try something new that does not necessarily give a good result, and you keep trying until you find something which is like a local optimum which works for you. Especially when you work in big enterprises, in big systems, socio-technical systems, you cannot, and maybe quantum computing will change that, but for now, we cannot find the full optimum of the whole system. Instead, we need to change the system one piece at a time, finding local optimums that are meaningful for a set of value streams, improve, and then move to the next one, and then move to the next one. And also remember, iteration means that you may still need to go back to the ones you've already worked with, because the environment in which your organization lives, in which those value streams and the team behind them live, is changing. You do not live in isolation. There are constantly everyday changes that are happening in the environment, in the market. And you may actually find yourself in a situation where the environment has changed so much that you need to go back and find a new optimum. So treat this as an iteration, treat all of this as a bit like design thinking. It's a practice that we need to practice every single day to solve problems, to solve challenges. And just because we solve them once, it does not mean they're solved forever. So with this, I hope you had some good ideas and inspiration. I'm going to leave you here. There is a way to contact me via LinkedIn, email, or you can even easily book time with me if you want to talk deeper into these matters further. Thank you very much, and I'll see you online somewhere in the chats or the platforms that we have available to talk.